The best of money matters. The Big Story.
Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Hongbin Jeong. A recent abduction of a Chinese TV actor to Myanmar and a subsequent release is shedding new light on the lengths to which human traffickers operating online scam centers in the war-torn country will go to in order to lure would-be victims. Wang Xing flew to Thailand for what he expected to be a movie casting call. Instead, he was picked up at the airport and driven to a scam center in Myanmar's Myawaddy, a notorious cyber fraud hub across the border from Thailand. His recent return to China has now spurred hundreds of Chinese families to call on their government to help find and free their loved ones, who they believe are still trapped in the scam centers. The kidnapping has also dented Thailand's appeal among tourists just weeks before China's biggest annual holiday. And joining us today to share his insights is Gary Bowerman, who's the director of Check-in Asia. Gary, welcome to the show.
Hi, Hongbin. Nice to be with you.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Gary, the Chinese actor's speedy rescue is casting a fresh spotlight on the scourge of scam centers, especially in Thailand and Myanmar. How prevalent are these scam centers? Are we seeing a rise in these scams in Thailand and Myanmar in recent years? If so, why?
Yeah, it's a good question. So actually this case, as you said, has cast the spotlight and it's given greater coverage to what is a serious and recurring issue, which has been happening for quite a while. But it also elevates the mystery a little bit. We don't really know a great deal about the situation, how he was released, how he was or wasn't rescued, or how many people, actually were in the scam center where he was. He said there were hundreds, but we don't know for sure. We don't know what nationalities they were. So this is a huge problem that has engrossed the region really for maybe the last 3 or 4 years, particularly since the pandemic. The lawlessness in Myanmar is actually allowing these scam groups really to operate, I wouldn't say without sanction, because China and Myanmar are trying to track them, but they are very agile and they're very flexible and they keep moving.
I see. I believe authorities are still trying to track down which scam center he was from. Now, experts, though, they say Wang's case highlights the growing sophistication of the masterminds of scam operations, especially in terms of their very deliberate form of kidnapping, of hostage-taking. So how do these scam centers operate? Do they target specific individuals like Wang's case, where he had flown to Bangkok for what he expected to be a movie casting call? Are these, criminal actors adapting and going to greater lengths compared to before to lure victims?
Yeah, you're right. So these scam centers are actually expanding. They're making more money and their operations are growing. So cases like this, when you have young models or young actors, that puts the story into the central media, and that's when we talk about it. But there are a lot of ordinary people that are affected by this as well, that are in these scam centers in different parts of Southeast Asia, but particularly in Myanmar. It's very reminiscent, Hongbin. I don't know if you remember 2 years ago, there was a movie in China called No More Bets. And it's very lifelike. It's a very brutal, it's a very good movie. But it really goes behind the scenes of what's actually happening in these scam centers. And it's human brutality, it's human slavery on an epic level. But the money being made is huge. And that's what's funding these operations to take advantage of corruption in local police forces, in local authorities. And that's enabling them to avoid sanction. And it's, they're very agile. As we said before, they move around and around. They don't stay in the same space. And causing human misery on a pretty high scale. The Civic Society Network says there could be at least 6,000 people imprisoned in these scam centers in Myanmar.
You mentioned the movie there, but is it safe to say that the movie really reflects on what is happening in real life? Is it very hard for these, victims to escape from these scam centers?
Yeah, so it was a fictionalized account of what really is quite real. And yes, I mean, the security around these centers is huge. The use of torture and beating and fear of murder or even organ harvesting is what keeps people scared when they're in these centers. They are treated brutally. They work very, very long hours. So yeah, it's a growth industry, unfortunately, and that's the nature of where we're at right now.
I see. Well, Wang is not the only actor who fell victim to these scams. In days before Wang's return, I believe other Chinese actors, they spoke on social media about their own similar experiences, but, was able to escape before kidnapping happened. Additionally, there were reports emerging of 2 other Chinese nationals, a male model and 21-year-old woman who had gone missing in similar circumstances, why is there a growing number of Chinese citizens being targeted specifically?
This is a really good question. I think the Chinese authorities are really trying to get to the bottom of this. It's interesting that the case of Wang Xing was really focused through Thailand. That's where he was kidnapped. But he came from China, as you said, on a casting call for a movie. And then he was kidnapped into Myanmar. It's also the Chinese authorities have found another route, which is direct from China through Yunnan province. This is also happening as well. I think the issue for young people in China at the moment is economic. There aren't the economic opportunities that there were maybe 5 years ago. And so online, if you get opportunities, that's not just models, that's not just actors, but that's also things like school teachers, English language teachers. They're being recruited fallaciously into the region and they're becoming victims as well. So a lot of this is the economic problems in China, which makes people take greater risks than they probably would have done before. And that's feeding the avariciousness, really, of these gangs.
I see. Are these scam centers also, operated by Chinese nationals?
So it seems that some of them are, and Chinese government has actually admitted that some of them are, and they've actually arrested quite a lot of Chinese operators in northern Myanmar. But it does seem that some of them have moved to the east or even to the south of Myanmar, and that's where it's hard to track because of the dangerous situation there. But yes, some of them do seem to have been operated by Chinese for sure.
I see. Well, now Wang's subsequent safe return to China has spurred hundreds of Chinese families to call on their government to help find and free their loved ones who they believe are still trapped in these scam centers. Could we now see Chinese authorities putting this as high priority?
Yeah, I think so. I think they have been for the last 2 or 3 years. It just hasn't been in the media spotlight, but they have been trying to crack down on this because this has a huge impact, not just on Chinese reputation, but also the safety and security of its citizens that are traveling into Southeast Asia. Over the last 2 years, Hongbin, since China reopened, Southeast Asia has been a very, very popular region once again for Chinese travelers. More and more want to travel into particularly Thailand, but also Malaysia, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam. So China is aware that it needs to work with local governments to protect the security of these travelers coming into the region. But it's difficult when you have such a lawless state like Myanmar and the freedom that some of these gangs have to operate without sanction.
I see. Will this also put other countries on high alert?
Yeah, I think so. I think when No More Bets came out, I think that was in August 2023, a lot of the focus was on Thailand, but also on Cambodia, also on parts of Laos as well. So yeah, absolutely. This isn't just a problem in Myanmar. This is a regional problem.
Right. I mean, with these scam operations, rapidly adapting and using new tactics, how can authorities tackle this issue going forward?
Yeah, that's exactly the problem at the moment. They are very agile, they're well funded, they're well resourced, they have good armaments, they have, they deploy armed guards to quite a high level that are military trained. So it's not easy. And it's the tracking, as you said, these sophisticated technologies that they use to scam people. They're actually taking record numbers of money from ordinary people. But it's how they move it around, where they transfer that money. So they've got to try and track the money a bit more easily. As we've learned over recent years, Hongbin, it's become much more easier to move money electronically to wherever you want it to go and to hide it. And that's what's happening. So that's really, I think, going to be where the crucial element going forward is to track down the resources of these gangs and try and freeze them out so that their operations aren't funded as well.
Right. Well, Wang's ordeal has also put pressure on Thailand. I mean, Chinese tourists, they are expressing their fears on social media about traveling to the Southeast Asian nation, with some even canceling their trips. In fact, cancellations of flights from China to Thailand jumped 155% over the weekend compared with the same period in 2024. And China is Thailand's largest and most critical market for it to rebuild its pandemic-hit tourism sector. So how will the recent kidnapping incident impact tourism in Thailand, and will the repercussions be short-lived?
It's a good question. I don't think anybody really knows the answer to that. I think the difference here, if you recall back in October 2023, there was a fatal shooting in Bangkok of a Chinese tourist at a mall in central Bangkok. And the Thai Prime Minister at the time, Srettha Thavisin, went straight to Beijing, went to assure the leaders, Xi Jinping, and also the people of China that this couldn't happen again, that the security would be put in place and that Chinese tourists would be safe. Now, that was a one-off shooting, and you can kind of patrol and protect the malls a little bit better than this, which is a trans-regional problem, and it's a recurring problem. And it's not just Thailand's problem. This is a regional problem. China is involved in this. Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand. solutions are going to have to be regional to get this problem. But in terms of tourism, absolutely, China is crucial to the recovery of the Thai tourism industry. In 2019, 11 million Chinese tourists visited Thailand. Last year, that number was about 6.7 million. So it's still a way down from where it was pre-pandemic. But obviously, the Thai authorities want to grow that figure again this year. It's really important, not just in terms of the number of Chinese visitors that come with their spending power as well, but the whole Chinese tourism ecosystem. So the airlines come, the hotel investors come. It's not just about the visitors themselves. It's more about the whole investment and the flight schedules as well, which support so many jobs in Thailand. So if that's at risk, Thailand will have to move very, very elegantly and very, very fast to try and show to the Chinese travelers that they are going to be safe when they arrive.
I mean, the timing could not be any worse. We have Chinese New Year approaching where a lot of Chinese people are, traveling out of country. So with this holiday approaching, how crucial is it for Thailand to recover the lost Chinese tourism bookings?
There's two good points that you make there. One, of course, Chinese New Year is a huge period of travel and tourism into Southeast Asia for two good reasons, really. One, it's one of the Golden Week public holidays, but also in most of China, it's particularly cold at this time of year. So coming into the warmth of Southeast Asia is an appealing way to travel. I think the other side of the coin is you said, what happens going forward? And that's quite tricky to say. I think that Thailand is going to do the very best that it can to try and reassure Chinese travelers. Some will still come, quite a lot will still come. Is this going to be a short-term problem? I think at the moment we simply don't know. We don't know. And I think that is the uncertainty that really is pervading Thai tourism at the moment, because if you consider the way that the calendar works in terms of tourism, Chinese New Year is very, very important for kickstarting the year, particularly this year as it falls in January. Every country in Southeast Asia wants to have a very strong Chinese New Year to get the year up and running. And if that doesn't happen in Thailand, that will have a psychological effect on the industry.
Right. But if the trend of, canceled trips persists beyond the Chinese New Year holiday period, what are the expected economic consequences for Thailand?
Yeah, they would be huge because, as I said, the airlines would then start cutting back on capacity and you would start to see less, particularly the risks on investment. China is building the new high-speed railway in Thailand. So there's a lot of investment that China actually has in Thailand to support the future growth of the country. And that's under threat. What I think you will see as the cancellations, if they do continue, is we will see much more coordinated efforts between governments to try and crack down and to really showcase not just that people are being rescued, but actually that these gangs are actually being caught and apprehended and punished. That's got to be the next stage, because somebody, as we know with Wang Xing, we don't really know whether he was rescued or whether he was actually released and he escaped. The truth is we simply don't know. And we don't know anything about the gangs that were behind it. So I think it's going to have to show to people around the region, not just in China, that the safety and security is being taken seriously. We're going to have to see these criminals apprehended.
Well, on that note, are there any long-term strategies that Thailand can adopt to prevent future incidents like this from damaging its reputation as a tourist destination?
It's a little bit out of its hands. This was the online and social media advertising of these jobs and these projects is out of Thailand's control. There's not really very much they can do. They can strengthen the border controls, of course, but those borders are quite big and they're quite porous as well. And the criminals know exactly where the gaps are. I think what Thailand will try to do going forward is try to promote the areas that are away from where this danger zone is. I think that's what they have to do. They have to promote the safe zones in Thailand where you don't have any of these impacts. Perhaps some of the islands, perhaps Bangkok, and maybe further south as well. I think that would be probably their best bet, is to try to avoid the northern areas in terms of its promotion at the moment.
Well, given the rise of scams and human trafficking reports, then what can be done to, improve awareness and education for not only Chinese tourists, but tourists in general regarding safety precautions? Yeah,
it's a good question because, as you said, this is a recurring issue that's, it comes and goes in news cycles at the moment. But I think, people have to be very, very well. I mean, the thing is, Hongbin, you and I are probably the same. We get scam calls all the time on our phones. We get email messages are scamming us, or WhatsApps are scammed, or WeChats are scammed. This is happening all the time. We know it's happening. But it's a little bit different when it's actually happening to your phone to when your own personal safety is at risk when you're in another country. And I think finding ways to reassure people is going to be a bit tricky in the short term. But I think showing over periods of time that these gangs are being broken, that they are actually cracking down on, is really the only way to reassure people.
I see. Well, thank you so much, Gary, for your time and your insights today.
You're welcome. It's great chatting to you, Hongbin.
That was Gary Bowerman, who's a director of Check in Asia. This has been The Big Story with me, Hongbin Jeong.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.